You already know how brakes work. Except on a bullet train, the brakes you're thinking of are almost completely useless. That's not an exaggeration. The friction disc brakes on a Shinkansen, the physical pads pressing against rotors, the kind you picture when you hear the word brakes, are only called into action for the final stretch of the stop. By the time they do any meaningful work, the train is already crawling. The hard part is finished before they ever get involved. So what actually stops it? That question is worth sitting with. Because you're about to find out that stopping a bullet train has almost nothing to do with brakes, and everything to do with a chain of 4 completely different technologies, each one engineered to handle a specific slice of the physics problem, each one stepping aside the moment the next system is better equipped to take over. Why can't you just use friction brakes from the start? Why does the sequence have to begin 3 to 4 miles before the station even appears? Why does a system with 0 physical contact between train and track produce more stopping force than steel pads on steel rotors? Why can't brakes just work? Here's where most people's thinking breaks down. Imagine pressing your thumb into a chocolate bar left out in the sun. Soft, easy, leaves a mark. Now imagine pressing that same thumb against the bottom of a hot frying pan. Same pressure, completely different result. The difference isn't how hard you push, it's the heat that builds up the moment contact happens. A bullet train doing 200 miles per hour carries more than 1.5 million pounds of moving weight. That's not a number you can picture easily, so if you tried to stop all of that using only brake pads squeezed against the wheels, the heat wouldn't just wear the pads out. It would be enough to boil a backyard swimming pool, twice, in under a minute. The wheels wouldn't slow down, they'd split apart. The pads wouldn't wear thin, they'd turn to liquid. Regular brakes don't fail on a bullet train because they're weak. They fail because the heat they produce is simply more than any material on Earth can survive. How does the first stage work? So the engineers stopped trying to fight that heat. They built a relay race instead. The driver starts the stopping sequence miles before the station even comes into view. The first system steps in immediately. The train's own electric motors start running in reverse. Every single wheel on the Shinkansen is connected to a motor. Normally, those motors pull electricity from the overhead wire and use it to spin the wheels forward. But when it's time to slow down, that relationship flips entirely. The wheels, until spinning fast from all that speed, are turned around to run the motors instead of the other way around. Moving train becomes moving electricity. That electricity travels back up through the hinged metal arm on the roof of each car, back into the overhead wire, and straight out into the power grid. And here's the part that stops most people cold. At this exact moment, on the Tokaido line between Tokyo and Osaka, a train decelerating into Nagoya Station is pushing electricity back into the same overhead wire that another Shinkansen is drawing from to accelerate out of Kyoto. One train slowing down is powering another train forward in real time on the same stretch of wire. The system doesn't waste what it takes away. It hands it to someone who needs it. This is where the overwhelming majority of the speed disappears. No heat building up at the wheels, nothing grinding against anything, just the train's own forward momentum being quietly converted into something the grid can use. But this only works while the wheels are spinning fast enough to keep the motors generating. Once the train drops below around 60 miles per hour, the motors are turning too slowly to do the job effectively. The electricity output drops off, so both systems have done their job, but the train is still moving. What happens when electricity stops working and friction is still off the table? How do you slow down 1 million pounds of steel without touching it at all? That answer is about 30 seconds away. What slows it without touching? This one works without touching anything at all, and it's the part that genuinely feels like it shouldn't be real. Strong magnets mounted underneath the train point downward toward the rails. When a moving magnet passes close to a piece of metal, it stirs up invisible, swirling electrical currents inside that metal. Picture dragging your finger slowly through a bowl of dry sand and watching the grains spiral outward around it. Except these spirals are happening inside solid steel and you can't see any of them. Those invisible currents generate their own magnetic push. That push shoves back against the magnets on the train. That resistance is what slows it down. No contact between any moving part and the rail. No friction. No surface wearing away. Just two invisible forces pressing against each other across open air. The same way wading through chest-deep water slows your legs down without anything actually grabbing you. Rain. Ice, a snowstorm coming off the Japanese Alps. None of it changes the result because nothing physical is touching anything. The braking force is locked inside the interaction between fields, and weather can't reach that. Where do real brakes fit? By the time this system has done its work, the train is below 40 miles per hour. The platform is visible through the front window. This is finally the moment the regular brake pads come in. But look carefully at the job they're actually being asked to do. They are not stopping a train traveling at 200 miles per hour. They are gently bringing a train that's already moving at roughly jogging pace to a smooth stop at a specific painted line on the platform floor. That's a completely different problem. A computer on board is watching the train's exact speed, total weight, distance remaining, and track angle every fraction of a second, making tiny adjustments to every wheel simultaneously. The result is that the doors end up within 20 inches of their designated marks on the platform. Not most of the time, every single time. How does this affect you? And here's the part that's already inside your daily life, even if you've never connected it. Every time you're riding in a hybrid or an electric car and you ease off the accelerator, watch the small indicator on the dashboard that shows the battery ticking back up. That's the exact same conversion happening at a smaller scale. The motor running in reverse, turning your leftover speed into stored electricity instead of letting it vanish as heat. Same principle, different size. When you take an elevator down from a high floor in a modern building, the motor controlling that elevator is often sending a small amount of power back into the building's electrical system on the way down. The descent pays for itself, partially. And if you've ever ridden an electric bike and noticed the battery percentage nudge upward while you were braking on a downhill stretch, you've already had the Shinkansen's primary braking system running through your hands without knowing it. The same physics, the same conversion, just quieter and much, much smaller. What did engineers actually solve? When that train glides into the station and the doors align themselves to the platform markings without the driver making a single manual adjustment, you're not watching a braking system perform a function. You're watching what happens when engineers accept that you cannot beat certain physical laws and choose to route around them instead. 4 completely different systems, each one engineered for the exact speed range where it performs best. Each one handing the problem to the next at precisely the right moment. The whole sequence, from the first gentle pull of the motors reversing to the final quiet stop at the painted line, is finished before most passengers have even looked up from whatever they were reading. Next time you feel an electric vehicle slow down without the driver touching the brake pedal, you're not just sitting in a car. You're sitting in something built on the same understanding that took a bullet train from 200 miles per hour to a perfect stop. The idea that the best way to get rid of energy isn't to destroy it, but to send it somewhere it can still do something useful. If there's something you walk past every day and wonder about, drop it in the comments. We read every single one, and the best suggestions make it into future videos. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.